So I know like TLC has pillow talk, but this is I guess like my pillow talk. Alright, welcome back guys. So I wanted to come to you guys today to answer some questions that I've had a lot about this particular topic. So I wanted to kind of give some advice to some people who are going through my same situation and maybe shed some light on the whole situation. And basically I just wanted to also come to you guys with some ways in which I've coped with it all. So firstly, me and my husband have been together for 7 years, married for 4 years. Many people would consider us to be high school sweethearts. We actually didn't meet in high school. We met at the discoteca actually, the night of my graduation. Just happened that way. I actually thought he was a completely different person. I literally went up to him, whole different name and everything. It was a real embarrassing. And if you want more on that story, you can check the description box below. I will have a link to an interview that we did about our relationship a little while ago. And well, in my experience, this mostly has been in response to a lot of Americans that I talked to. And great personally, I think it has a lot to do with culture in Italy as compared to the US. When I first moved to Italy, I moved to Italy on the eve of my 16th birthday. And in Italy, around that age, you're allowed to start going out to the clubs. And there are some places that are very particular about who's allowed to come in and things like that and how you're supposed to be dressed. But generally speaking, it's a lot more relaxed here as far as the scene, as opposed to what I've experienced and what I do know about the scene in the US. The drinking age is lower here. It's starting at 18. But also the culture around drinking is quite different because of the level of exposure at a young age most people do have. It's not something that is really kept from people. It's not seen as like the forbidden fruit, so to speak. And the drinking age being lower also I think factors in with that, and that's just again my opinion. There's been tons of research on this. You can do the research yourself. Mostly I reference that to say that it's just a very different opinion on accessibility, which definitely is juxtaposed to the culture that we see portrayed in our film and TVs. I feel that the scene that I experienced here in Italy were some of the best years of my young womanhood. You know, you don't have to be necessarily really stuffy to go. There's not really any pressure to be a certain way or do a certain thing. Just went out there just to have fun and to dance and have a good time. And if I met someone that was cool, but it was never anything serious, there was never the intention of that necessarily. It's almost like going to a house party. Like that's kind of how I see like most, like at least in Vicenza, unless you're going to somewhere like Villa Bonine, which I know there's another one I'm forgetting. Oh, Vanilla Club, which is in Jesolo, which is the beach area. Sometimes you'll have other like big events where they maybe will have like an outdoor like, you know, dance situation. I think for a lot of people, when I explain that to them, especially coming from the US, if they've never been outside the US before, it's really shocking for them and kind of scary to think, oh my gosh, 16-year-old being exposed to this. It's not the same type of, I don't know, pressure or level, I think. And the point is, you can find love anywhere, and it's not up to other people's judgment to tell you where is the right place to find love or to find a partner or whatever the case may be. It's completely up to you. Every choice you make is up to you, and it doesn't matter what other people's opinions are, and that should not cloud your relationship, the validity of your relationship, opportunity for longevity of your relationship. That has nothing to do with the environment in which you found the person that you wanted to spend your life with. That's something that I definitely had to learn and build confidence with, because it was something where, you know, people were really harsh, judgmental about like where me and my husband first met, and how they assume we met and the assumptions that go along with that. But honestly, like I told you, stories in the description box below if you want to read it. But it was very funny how we met and how something positive came out of it. A little awkward, but it worked out. When you're under the age of 25, the assumption is you don't make good decisions. But it's also this weird balance that we have in the US where by the time you're 18, you're kind of expected to be an adult, but with limitations, of course, because you're still not old enough to, you know, do certain things. And then once you reach 21, is when it's like, okay, you're able to order wine at the table at dinner, but you can't rent a car without having to pay like an outrageous price because of liability. So part of that is that a lot of people think that I'm just personally attracted to older men and that I'm getting some type of benefit from it. And I tell you, if Giulio had as much money as people assume he does, the luxury we could have, but no, that's not the case. It's almost like my relationship is seen as transactional, which that is not the case. Something that I learned through these interactions, and one thing that I always say is that life is short and we should never live with too many what ifs, because people are allowed to fail, but you first have to give yourself room to succeed, and the only way you can do that is by trying and doing so deliberately. And that's just personally something that I've always felt, even to this day I stay true to in everything that I do. I'm deliberate with every action that I take, every interaction that I make, seeing things through as opposed to worrying that they're automatically going to fail, and saying that if it does fail, then that's okay. Something that I can grow from and move forward with. Also, side note, I've never had an Italian person question me and Giulio's age difference or how we met. And I kind of want to know from you guys, if you want to leave me a comment down in the description. Just leave me a comment down below and tell me if you've ever had that happen to you, if you're in an interracial or international relationship, if you've ever had people question where you've met, or just generally speaking, if you've ever had any types of weird confrontations about your relationship. I'd love to hear it and just kind of see that I'm not alone. Would be great. So me and Giulio initially did our nuptials in Denmark, which it was a really lovely wedding, by the way. I know most people say that about their weddings, but I really feel that deeply in my soul. We did it in Denmark initially, and I had a really cute frosty dress, which I'll be making a separate video about that, about people who are interested in getting married to someone internationally. I know I already made some videos about our immigration situation and how that's still ongoing. But for those of you who are interested in marrying someone who may be from another country, then specifically someone else from Europe, then I can definitely make another video talking about our process and what we did, and how we did it, and how we were able to legally get married in Denmark. But I say all that to say that because I was under the age of 21, it was really shocking for a lot of my American family members and people in America that I met. And again, that has a lot to do with our culture and how we look at the age when people turn 21 and what that means. Again, you can order a glass of wine at dinner, but renting a car is a whole nother situation. Also, car insurance is more expensive under the age of 25, at least in my experience, but I think it's under 25, you're considered higher risk. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about laws. And I actually had a woman come up to me once after telling her that I don't know if I was just getting married or I was about to get married. She came up to me after hearing the news and just started rubbing my stomach. And it was like, oh, thank goodness. And I really thought at first, me being who I am, I thought she was complimenting me because I've been working out extra hard, and I was like, yeah, I can share some ab routines with you, but that wasn't the intention. She had thought that possibly I was rushing to get married because I was pregnant, which is another assumption people have. If you're married under the age of 25, I should say, everyone's different. Another odd thing that people would say to me that when I was getting ready to get married, and I think this would have been regardless of me being under 25, I should be ready for the expectations of marriage or the expectations of me now being a wife. People still to this day ask me, how's it going? How am I enjoying being married? How am I adapting to married life? It was really strange to me to hear it phrased in this way. So I would often think to myself, is there a return policy? Is there a customer service number that I get to call to complain about my stay? Do I get a refund? Because it kind of sounds, again, like a transactional situation, and that's to me not how I personally like to view my relationship at all, generally speaking. I think that there's no handbook or rule book to it. It's just I try not to see it in such a narrow framing. I was told that I would have to give up university. I was told that I would have to stop with my current job, my career path, that I would have to adjust these things, that there's so many things that were going to change for me. I mean, nothing stops just because you say I do. You still have the rest of your life to live, and you're allowed to grow and flourish together as a unit as opposed to two separate entities. And still, I continued on my career path. I'm still employed. I finished my undergraduate degree in public relations. I finished my master's degree in business, and I'm on to my third master's degree right now. So many people are shocked when I tell them that Giulio was originally going to take my last name when we got married. And people are also extremely shocked when I tell them that I didn't take his last name. And again, that has a lot to do with me coming from an American culture. It's tradition, it's normal for many people to change your last name. But me personally, I really like my last name. I find it kind of funny and ironic because my last name is Pope, like the Pope, and it's something that most people don't believe my last name is Pope, and they try to add accents onto it or add in extra letters to make it sound different because it's just, I guess, it's kind of an odd last name. But in the end, we did decide to keep our separate last names, and it's something that we still struggle with today just because with living in the States, especially living in the South, people often try to change our last names for us. So oftentimes people people will call me by his last name, or they'll change his last name to be the same as my last name, because it's not as common in the US. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, it's just not as common for two married people to have separate last names. And for me, you know, this is my identity, this is who I am, and I would never change my last name just because of social pressure. It's just not something that personally I'm comfortable with. It's not something that Julia was comfortable with. And also too, it does feed into Italian culture. So I have been asked like, oh, is it a cultural thing? And to some degree it is as well, because in Italy, it's been ages since they have changed last names. Typically speaking, if you're being traditional, the last name of the father does go to the child, but not to the wife. Lineage is kept that way. It is not kept as far as the wife changing her last name to fit that of the male's family. You usually have two separate last names, two separate identities. You are who you are, you know? And again, it hasn't been done for ages as far as changing the last name. And I would always keep my last name and stay true to myself and, you know, my ideals. It's one of those things that I started in the beginning of my relationship, is asking those things that are uncomfortable, because I'd rather rip the Band-Aid off ahead of time. That's just how my attitude is personally, and how I kind of approach a lot of things in life, because I feel that I can reap more rewards that way. While I do think it's important to continue growing together and experiencing things together, and people are allowed to change and, you know, develop differently as they get older. However, I still think that communication is super important, not just because I have a degree in communications, but because I feel that when you go through those difficult conversations about your different views on things, or if that's just completely a deal breaker for you, to me, this is a big change. It is a big decision. So I wanted to make sure that I put my thoughts and my opinions out there, and, you know, understood where he's coming from. And so we've already worked through differences in opinions, or what are deal breakers, what are not deal breakers. It's something that like scared me initially when we first started dating. I said, well, you know, I have very strong viewpoints, very strong beliefs, and I want to make sure that my partner is aware of that, and that as we move forward, it's not a question as to what my opinion is on a topic, especially when it comes to raising kids together, when it comes to making big purchases together, when it comes to social topics as well. I want to make sure that like my stance on something is not misconstrued, and that I'm also respecting his stance on something, because we've already had the conversation. So that's just my personal view on it. That's just how I see as far as like your duties and whatnot. I think it's your duty to communicate, because I feel that if someone really cares about you, then they'll stick through those tough decisions and discussions and be able to work them out with you. And then if they're not, then it's good that they're gone, right? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I thank you guys so much for joining me today and having this conversation with me. Definitely leave comments below if you have any tips, or like the tips that I gave, or you would just like more of this. Definitely let me know. Leave it in the comments down below. But definitely like, subscribe, and ring the bell for me, because then that way the next time I post a video, you'll get notified and you'll be able to hang out with me again. Definitely hit me up on the socials. It's in my description box below. My Instagram handle is there for you. Well, I'll talk to you guys next time. Ciao for now.